Hey, what's up, Stringlings? We are back with another entry in the Great Canadian Pedalboard. Today we're looking at the Airis Effects Savage Drive. Let's check it out. So when you look at the Savage Drive, you might get the impression that this is going to be a really kind of a nasty high gain sounding overdrive. One of those kind of screamers or something in the line of, maybe an OCD, something that's going to add some gain and distortion on top of your distortion while you're, busy tweaking out. There's a reason when we put a tube screamer in front of a distortion pedal, we turn the gain all the way down because we want it there to tighten things up on the bottom end. And that is what the Savage Drive is actually designed to do. It's almost, and I hope I don't get much flack for saying this, but it's almost a clean boost, except that it does allow you to add some gain without over clipping your circuit. The unique thing about the version 5 is that it offers you both the low mid and high mid settings, which you can see on some distortion pedals, but not very often on an overdrive, in addition to the low and high settings that you would typically expect. It's nice to have what's really kind of a 4-band EQ on an overdrive as opposed to just a single tone knob. Single tone knob is cool, whatever. If you're used to that, that's totally fine. I'm used to it on just about everything I have in terms of overdrives has a tone knob. It's got a volume, gain, and tone, right? Though this has volume, Savage basically is gain, but then instead of tone, it's got this kind of 4-band EQ, and it says right on the Airis website that the low mid is the one that's really going to give you the bang for your buck out of this pedal. So its job is really to tighten up flubby sounding distortion channels. I'm actually going to try it first through the Humble, so through a Dumble style amp, just to hear what it does as a kind of a clean boost or a mid-gain, probably even low-gain overdrive pedal. And then we're going to see what it does to a really, like I said, flubby-sounding high-gain amp. I'm going to be using the Kazrog Ampcraft 1992, which is a 5150 sim. Very good one, actually. But all of the channels on that amp have an overdrive on them. So I'm shutting the overdrive off. I'm turning up a little bit of the noise gate, just because it's very, very hissy. And for guitar today, I'm using the Steve Barrett Custom Luonotar with Peg City Super Clutch humbuckers. I'm only using humbuckers today. This is Peg City's logo. They are one of our series sponsors. And I also want to give a quick shout out to our main series sponsor, Next Gen Musical Limited in Nepean, Ontario. They are going to be providing all of the components to build the Great Canadian Pedalboard once we've got all the pedals in and demoed, so keep an eye out for that. And their link is down in the description. Anything you need in terms of pedalboard parts, guitar components, amp parts, all at that store. One of the coolest stores in North America as far as I've been able to tell, with probably the best customer service you're going to find. So make sure you check out Next Gen. They're down in the description, and let's get started with this pedal. Okay, so as promised, I am on the Humble. We're just using a clean tone. This is it. Nothing too spectacular there. I do love the sound of this plugin. So ML Sound Labs, thank you guys for sending this one over. But we're here to check out this Canadian pedal. Now, we're going to add some dirt. I'm actually going to turn the Savage knob all the way down. We're leaving everything else at noon. And now you can just hear that slight bit of clean boost. We're going to add a little bit of dirt. So, I hate to say this, guys, but the team over at Airis, let's see how they feel about this. But if you're a country player, this is a really good pedal to throw on your rig. Don't worry about the fact that it looks like a heavy metal pedal, right? We've all got a little bit of country in us somewhere, and That little bit of edge is just so great for a solo. Turn that Savage Drive all the way up. You can hear the hiss kick in. That's the gain, right? It's a great sounding pedal, you know, and that's just on a clean channel. You know, we can play with these the low mids a little bit here. On the website, he describes it as probably the most important control on the pedal, right? And this is the one that's going to give you a really kind of chuggy gent sound if you drop it down. If you warm it up, it gives you a little bit more body to the tone. And you can use this one to really kind of dial in tones that you wouldn't normally get from an overdrive. The high mids, you can get that crunch. We'll see what it sounds like more on the distorted side, but just for now, a little bit more of the low mid on the clean tone. I mean, it really fattens up quite a bit. A little bit more low. Now, if you're worried about playing in a band context, you do want a little bit more high end so that you're cutting through. Okay, we'll flip to the single coils. Here's the noise. Like, how cool does that sound, right? I mean, for what it looks like and for the press, it's a really good overdrive. Even just driving clean tones, it sounds fantastic. We're going to hear this going through a couple of different amp combos later on, but let's switch this over now. We're going to go to the... Hold on. There we go. We're going to go over to the Kazrog. So this is like a 5150 style, heavily distorted, high gain amp. And I've switched the overdrive from the plug-in off. So all we're getting is drive channel and cab. So sorry about that. Had to do a little bit of a reset here because I realized in editing that I had actually switched the controls around a little bit as I was describing them. So in actual fact, the low mid is up here in the left-hand corner. The high mid is right beside it. Okay, so I had them reversed with these two. This is just the low and the high as you would typically find them. So knowing that, we can go ahead and we're going to do this with some high gain distortion. This is the Kazrog 1992 Ampcraft. It's kind of a 5150 sim. I've taken the overdrive off of the plugin. There's a little bit of noise gate, not much. You can hear quite a good chunk of noise because it's very high gain. I'm going to make sure that I'm in humbucker mode. Still there. Okay, and this is what it sounds like with no overdrive. This is just the amp distortion. Okay, and roll this back a little and just try some more here. So it has a little bit of a dark kind of, I want to say furry tone. It's not fuzz, it's like furry. We would use the word flubby sometimes to describe that kind of bottom end. It's okay for like a doom kind of a thing. But if you want more crunch and a little bit more punch, you need to put an overdrive in front of it. So I'm actually going to turn the Savage, the gain, all the way down and click this on. There we go. And see just everything at noon, what happens to that tone. Hear how it tightens up already? It almost clamps it, right? It almost clamps down on it. So we haven't done anything really with the EQ on here. If we just add a little bit more, if we add just a little bit more of the Savage, a little bit more of the gain, what about 10 o'clock-ish? Gets a little bit more hair, a little bit more squeal. But it sounds great, right? So already it's really just tightened up that tone quite a lot. Now that is actually why they include overdrives in front of amps like this plugin on the Kazrog, and they have a selection of overdrives that go in front of it. Let's see what happens now, and I'm going with what it says on the Airis website, where he points out, I'm just going to read this quickly, probably the most important control on the pedal. Okay, it'll make I love this description. Will be what makes you love it, no matter what guitar you run into it and what amp you run it into. So this is where the body is, right? And again, we see this quite a bit on some heavy metal style distortions, right? The HM2, I think, had one, or the Metal Zone, I can't remember, but it was actually a double control, right? So a lot of people didn't know that. So I know when I was a kid, nobody knew that there were actually low mid control on the mid-range knob. But it says, here, if you roll this all the way back, you get a really crunchier tone. I could see that being really cool, right? And having this split means that you can really color this tone quite a bit. I'm going to roll them in opposite directions a little bit and watch what happens to the sound here. So cool, right? Of course, with the low and high controls, you got quite a big sweep. You can hear how much sweep there is. If I take the low all the way out, it gets quite fuzzy, right? If we crank that high up, but just leave the high a little. So you can use the high control to do sort of what you would do with the tone control on your guitar, roll it out. So if you've got really shrill kind of high frequency pickups, you can use that to roll that back a little bit. These are pretty well balanced pickups, but let's see if we just take these in the opposite direction here. Take the highs down. Take the mids, low mids up. So with the low mids up, you get a little bit more of almost like a cocked wah kind of sound, right? So it's almost like a filter. It's actually really cool sound. Let's take everything all the way to 10. So for the record, that's really clipping the front of my interface. So is there an advantage in that kind of tone? I don't think so. Personally, doesn't do much for me, but if you wanted to scoop these out and dial these back south of noon. So one thing you want to watch when you're mixing, especially if you're mixing a lot of high gain stuff, is to make sure that you are on top of this low gain, especially because we tend to like a really fat, rich, bassy sound when we're playing by ourselves with headphones on. But the trick with that is that those frequencies actually start to cancel each other out when you're playing with a bass and a kick drum, and things can get really kind of muddy. So if you're able to roll that back, when you're playing guitar in a mix, the tone actually kind of sucks a little bit. It's not tone that you would typically use just playing on your own, because it's thinner on the bottom end, but the rest of the band is also mixed in, right? This actually gives you that ability to kind of attenuate that a little bit more. I'm going to crank this Savage most of the way up. You can hear that whine. I think, you know, for leads, you want to have a little bit, if you want to have a little bit more gain, a little bit more squeal to it, that's a really great amount of gain to add. It doesn't overclip the distortion at all. Right? Bring those mids back up. Let's see what we get for lead tone. It's very cool. It's back and straightened up here. There we go. But I kind of like it a little bit better with a little bit less gain and just punching up. Especially take the low mids down a little bit. And okay, that to me on this guitar, that to me sounds really good going through the Kazrog. So into like a 5150 type distortion. This particular setting right now seems to work, but you've really got to play with this on your rig. If you've got a cabinet beside you, even better. We can make these adjustments as we go, as you're kind of dialing in tone, but really you have to put in a little bit of work, but I really, really dig what this pedal is doing. Let's just see here. Yeah, it's really cool. Okay, so there we have the Airis Effects Savage Drive. One of the coolest overdrive pedals I've kicked on in a while. This is not going to be the only overdrive on the Great Canadian Pedalboard. I have to say, we're playing around with quite a lot of tone. And this one was a surprise to me because I was expecting... You know, we play with our eyes, right? Guitar players, we play with our eyes. I was expecting this to be a really high gain, aggressive overdrive, and it's not. It's a very subtle, but very effective drive for cleaning up your tone, cleaning up the bottom end on a distorted amp, and even just adding some really cool edge to a clean or slightly dirty amp. It has a lot of flexibility built into it, and I think that's going to make this one a bestseller for a long time. It is 100% going on the board in front of the distortion chain, so keep an eye out for that. And remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you are subscribed to this playlist and following the hashtag Great Canadian Pedalboard on all of my social channels. They're all down below. Airis's social links are all down below as well. And as well as a link to their website if you want to get one of these for yourself. Highly, highly recommend that you check this out if you are doing anything high gain, or you just like the sound of the pedal, or you just like the look of the pedal. This thing's really cool. Again, another one that I don't want to get rid of. I want to put it on my wall, right, and just have that hanging up because it's a very, very cool pedal. So anyway, thanks again to our sponsors. Thanks again to Airis, Peg City, Next Gen, and I will see you guys on the next demo.